Abba Kyari offended America's interest in Hushpuppi multimillion-dollar fraud. Since People Gazette broke the news last week that a judge in the United States had issued a warrant of arrest for Nigeria's disgraced police officer Abba Kyari, questions have spread as to why. You see, the U.S. accused the Nigerian deputy police commissioner of conniving with Ramon Abbas, a notorious Nigerian fraudster based in Dubai, to defraud a Qatari business person of $1.1 million. So Nigerians have been asking, what is the business of the US in all of this? After all, neither Mr. Kyari or Hushpuppi nor even the victim was in the US. When was the crime allegedly committed? Unlike in previous cases, say Obiwane Okeke Bidemi Rufai or Allen Onyoma, who committed the alleged fraud in the US, America's interest in Kyari's case was not immediately apparent in court filings, even though the indictment was lengthy and detailed in establishing connivance in wire fraud and money laundering. While making direct connections between co-conspirators and America, the Gazette had to write the US prosecutors to get clarification on, as to how Mr. Kyari violated American law that would justify his extradition. So here's what we learned. American prosecutors in their complaint established a relationship between Mr. Kyari and Hushpuppi. They also established that there was a relationship between Hushpuppi and two female co-conspirators in the US. Motunrayo Fashola, who has a child with Hushpuppi, has been a resident of New York, while Bolatito Abba Kyari has been living in New Jersey. Both women were in charge of Wells Fargo and Capital One bank accounts used by the syndicate to defraud the Qatari businessperson. Mr. Kyari arrested and detained Chibuzo Vincent for 5 weeks to block him from further dissuading the Qatari person not to send money to the US bank accounts run by the two women for Hushpuppi. It was claimed in the indictment that Mr. Kyari knew that holding Chibuzo was only to allow Hushpuppi to defraud the Qatari businessperson of an additional $575,000, as Hushpuppi specifically mentioned to Mr. Kyari. This made Mr. Kyari an accomplice in the fraud that passed through American banks. After the Qatari businessperson, who was not identified in court filings, transferred funds into the American bank account, Mr. Fashola and Agba collected the money and laundered it through purchase and wire transfers directed by Hushpuppi. In the document, prosecutors said Mr. Kyari received his share through proxies from Hushpuppi after the Qatari businessperson transferred money to American banks for Hushpuppi's female co-conspirators. This made American banks victim of a scheme in which Mr. Kyari was a key player, thus the country's interest. Both count 1, wire fraud, and count 2, money laundering, had ties to the United States, both bank accounts in the US and defendants located in the US. Tom Mosek, spokesman for the United States Attorney's Office in Los Angeles, told the Gazette in an email statement, following Mr. Kyari's suspension from the Nigerian police force, American prosecutors are expected to expedite the request for the disgraced officer's extradition from Nigeria to face charges for taking part in a scheme, proceeds of which were transferred to and laundered through banks in America, where at least 2 co-conspirators are based. I guess that gives an explanation for people wondering, okay, fine, how does the US get involved with this? Makes sense. But even if the US is not involved, I think the FBI should still be able to carry out, private investigations, and that's just it. But I guess the question is, why would American law be applied? And I guess that makes sense. So yeah, that is literally it. This is just the people that are arguing against it now they can fend, because really and truly you cannot argue against that, except People's Gazette is obviously giving out false news. Somebody here says, extradite a criminal and killer to go and face his charges at the United States of America immediately. Lol, have you forgotten? Abba was sent to Igbo land. He's the super cop Biafra at work. Nigerian police don't play with bribe. The victim is in USA. The victim is not in the USA. Obviously, I think Hushpuppi has victims all over the world. But for this specific case in which Abba Kyari is involved, two US bank accounts were used for, transferring of funds and all that. So that's why they're involved. Um, okay. Somebody here says that Abba Kyari is a thief, a murderer, a criminal, and a lunatic. He should be hung. Oh, all right. Extreme, but I don't think any the laws in America would, follow that. The man that the fraud lives in America. He has USA naturalization, so Abba Kyari face your crime. But then, if you read the article, you know that it's way deeper than that, which even justifies why American law and the FBI should be involved in this because their bank accounts were used for, part of this crime. And the fact was, actually, Abba Kyari understood that jailing Vincent Chibuzo, which was, which was the opponent of Abba Kyari, would actually allow for, the funds and the scam to go through because the Chibuzo person was, planning to warn the Qatari businessman that, this is a scam and he should not send funds into that account. So Abba Kyari is an accomplice officially. Woo! And that's the thing. Why would you lock up a Nigerian citizen for 5 weeks without charging such a person to court? Abba Kyari, you think we are fools? Someone says that Abba Kyari's sentence is at least 20 years. He's an accomplice, not the main culprit. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know how the law is going to work because, again, the two women who are controlling these bank accounts are also accomplices as well. And, of course, it makes it bad because, Abba Kyari is one that's meant to enforce and, carry out the law. So, it's a sicky one still. Someone here says, in everything we do, fear God because the cockery will always crumble at the end. Or the cocky. Oh my days. Someone says, although Abba Kyari is not directly involved in the original plot, he's actually directly involved because he's an accomplice and he understood the assignment and his role, he executed it well in, being an accomplice. So again, that is literally it. There is nothing else that you can say, nothing else you can argue. And yes, he's suspended now, so he needs to, go and face the American courts and we'll see what happens. So what I think about it, and don't forget to like and subscribe.